just got second place at the best premium event that I've actually ever been to.
We topped DashCon.
Yeah, we topped DashCon, topped with Harri. So, a little story. I was gonna play like 6 different decks going into this. And then about 10 minutes before the actual tournament began, we decided to do a custom house ban list. All the other decks I played were no longer playable.
Yeah.
So
thank you, Solemn.
Starter. V-Star is really good. There's nothing else you'd want to run. You could run like this kind of also and look at top 5 for Harri, but like you have Masquerade Bunny for that, which I'll get into. But V-Stars are way too good. Sky High is good because it's your main phase counter charge, which is really nice. If you don't want to have to call out a Mirror Master in the battle phase, which I'll also get to. I know some people like the Dark States over trigger, but the reason I run the Cray one is that damage denial is like fairly common in this deck. And if you do run the Dark States one and you hit it early, you're forcibly giving people damage, and I just didn't like having that forced option, and I only get 2 Vanguard attacks regardless, so I'd rather just have this. And be able to put it on multiple units versus like the Dark States. 2 Exotic Jerker, I didn't really like it that much. I thought it was okay. I wanted to go with 6 crit, so I actually decided to run 4 of the Bunny. You don't want to discard your grade 3s because you either want to rewrite Harri or use the other ones. So this is nice, and it's 15k shield. 4 heal for the best card in the deck, Prankster. This card is absurd. So when it goes to soul from anywhere, you put it back into the deck and search anything out. Anything in your entire deck. It's so disgusting. Like you can soul charge it off the G guard, from rear guard, from hand, and you can just get any missing pieces, and it's so good. And I don't know why it's at 4. 1 Mirror Master. So this is gonna be your actually mid battle phase, could be main phase counter charge. But basically these two kind of fill the same role. It's just this is only main phase, and this can be used offensively in the battle phase. Lovely companion for RPG. So for those who don't know, Pillman has a pseudo denial griffin play. Once I get everything else, I'll fully explain it. But it's very necessary in this meta with decks like Blade Master, Fenrir, even Nue, like Valkyrion, just a bunch of like really big hitter rearguard decks. One Leslie, I did not pull this off once today. It was okay. The concept, like on paper, the Nightmare Idol engine was good, but you know, it didn't really put in much work. So 1 Hanali, this is good for Nue. I always like to run Hanali just because it's like you can search it out with like Prankster and Dancing, which is a grade 2 I run. It's good, and you can call out a mid battle phase with your G guard and Lovely Companion, so it's alright. 2 Masquerade Bunny. If you're a good Harri player, you don't necessarily need to run this, but I'm notoriously bad at getting Harri, so I actually have to run this. I have to run 6 copies of Harri, and I probably still won't see it, but it's still pretty good.
You need it for your ride target, Tricky Assistant, right?
Yeah, Tricky Assistant basically is my ride target at this point. Forge Purple Tricky Assistant. This card is like actually bonkers.
Seriously.
This can proc any of your like on-place effects as long as it's not from hand, which I'll get to with another card. It's really good. It's really gross. It can let you reset the Tricky combo. This is a part of the Nightmare Doll loop. Once again, it didn't do a ton. For Parryton, this is like pretty cracked. It's really good. It's generically amazing. You soul charge, you get to call any card out you want. It's part of the Lovely Companion combo. 2 Dancing Princess, this is kind of like your early game Prankster. You can only search grade 2 or less, but usually if you're like post GB, you can just search Prankster and then Prankster search anything you need. And it's an 8k, so you can swing under 9ks if you need to. 4 of this. Sometimes you don't necessarily need to run 4, but because of how popular Blade Master was, because I like fully expected a ton of Blade Master for this event, which there was going to be if we didn't do the custom ban list, but there was a ton of Overlord, so it kind of the same like reasoning. This card's really good. It's your main way of getting Starry Pop out. It also can retrieve a Mirror Master from drop if for some reason goes to drop. This is your main attacker, and like once it goes to drop, it's gone. And I knew like getting denial would be fairly common, so I wanted to run as many copies of this as possible. Plus another grade 3 I'm running. If you have like one of these in soul and then one in hand, you can just like get a bunch of different attacks off. So maybe if we weren't like in such a like pseudo denial griffin G guard play meta, you wouldn't really need this as much, but I think running 4 is fine right now. For Harri, stages are really good. Excel 1 gets you dummy high numbers, and Excel 2 gets you dummy high hand. You never use its second skill. 2 Tricky Assistant. Some people run 1. I just like running 2 because, you know, when you're facing the big 6, you know, risking damages could literally be the difference between you winning and losing. This card lets you shut down Blade Master, lets you shut down Fenrir, lets you shut down Valkyrion. It lets you shut down a lot of different decks. And even if you don't like fully shut it down, I mean, your opponent losing 1 or 2 attacks is always not bad.
Your ride target also.
Yeah, I've rode this card so much. I actually didn't ride it at all today, surprisingly.
Shockingly.
Yeah.
Why you got second and not first?
Yeah, basically. Alice. So this is a part of the Nightmare Doll loop. It's also a generically good extender, because you can call like Pop back out, and it's just really good. You can also like mini loop it with Ginny. As long as you have CB, this card can keep calling itself back out as a 17k attacker. I actually didn't really use it a ton today, but overall it's pretty solid. 2 Starry Pop. For those who don't know what it does, it has 40k or more power, it gets a crit, and your opponent can't guard with Sentinels, and then at the end of the battle attacked, retire it. It can only be called to stages, and the most disgusting part of this card is that whenever it is placed from anywhere, get an Excel marker. You could like call this, get an Excel, use Trapezes, get another Excel. I actually had that happen in one of my matches. I opened 2 of these in a purple Trapezes, and I suddenly had 4 Excel 1 markers.
Why are you going Excel 2?
Actually, usually I do go Excel 2, but due to a custom ban list change within 15 minutes of round 1 starting, I think.
Yeah.
I didn't actually have enough markers prepared, so I mostly went Excel 1 out of fear of not having enough markers, but usually like which marker you go can be kind of matchup dependent and like how many pieces. Like as the game I mentioned before, like when I opened to this, I knew I was going to go Excel 1 regardless, just because like it's just so free, and you know, being able to set up like 40k attackers, actually even more than that, 40k circles, is just, it's so free, it's so good. This deck's going to be probably like one of the best decks after a ban list if we ever get one. For Masquerade Master Harri, I didn't go into it a ton, but it's really good. When it attacks, you counterblast 1, flip up a copy of itself, you shove 2 rear guards and call 3 out. And then for each of your basic copies of himself, all your Magia units on the board get +3, which can stack pretty well late game. This card can also help you like loop Starry Pop, and then like you can put Perytons and Trapezes in, Starry Pops in, and just like proc it over and over just to keep spamming it, either farming for hand or getting more and more like larger attacks. Yvette. So Yvette's really gross. This card like lets you play when you have no CB. So when it attacks, you put a card from your hand into the soul, and then you flip a card face up. You call a card from your soul, and it gets +15k. You also get a free Excel marker, all for no CB. With how common damage denial is in this format, and just in premium in general, it's nice to have that like alternative option. It's really solid. It's the card I've finished most with, just because I like enjoyed having that CB, and there wasn't many times I actually just had Starry Pop sitting there during like middle battle phase. I mostly just wanted to go in this end to get more pop attacks. But the card that actually is the most disgusting one of them all is Darkside Princess. So this card has a really simple effect. At the end of the battle, it attacks to a rear guard and then stride a Magia unit. And the reason that this is really good, because most of the time people have to decide what strides they want to go into during their, of course, like the ride phase and when they're striding and all that. Well, this card lets you choose during the middle of the battle phase. And the reason that that's so important is because when you hit defensives, Pelican doesn't have many like big rearguard attacks except for like on the stage. It kind of changes how things could go, because like with Yvette, you can hit super big numbers with one card, or you can get a bunch of smaller numbers with Masquerade Master Harri. And just having that knowledge and being able to like kind of switch a game plan in the middle of the battle phase after doing some smaller pokes is just really good. Also, calling itself gets you another attack, and like when you have like 4 or 5 Excel markers, this thing gets really big. It's really good. It's probably one of my favorite stride, if not my favorite stride in the entire deck. Millward. This card lets you refund CB with either Mirror Master or Sky High, just a Soul Blast. So it's basically how you can refund CB without using CB. Actually never went into this, but I always liked having it as an option. Seabreeze. I think people actually are underestimating the value of Seabreeze. Seabreezing on Harri is like pretty disgusting, because you know, if you own a Seabreeze and you have GB live and you can like call up Peryton or Trapezes or a Prankster, you can start resolving those effects that need GB and just start looping your Starry Pop, and then suddenly, you know, you're having like 2 to 3 Excel 1s or Excel 2s, and you can sometimes just straight out like kill your opponent on Seabreeze just because you have the GB active. 2 Wandering Dragon. This card also helps with the pseudo denial Griffin play. I didn't go into it a ton. I used to run 3, but I just never really went into 3. But it's nice. It soul charges. It lets you call a card from Soul in the Guardian Circle, which can include a PG if the PG lets you use it when it's not from hand. I've soul charged my over triggers sometimes, and I've been able to call it out. 2 Furnival. This is like kind of your filter card. You get to look at top 3 and put something in, and if it's grade 1 or greater, it gets 5k shield. This has actually saved me a couple times. Like if I'm like missing a piece for the denial play and I like really need it, sometimes I get a little lucky and I'll like be able to look at top 3 and like find a Prankster or find the piece that I'm I'm missing. Cold Heart. It's a 30k shield. It's pretty simple as long as you have a 0, 1, 2, 3, and then also 20 markers. Blinged out. Got these today. So yeah, that's Harry.
It's not recording.
Fuck.
I'm kidding.
Oh damn.